The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon or morning, depending on where you're at. Thank you for taking the time to attend our presentation on managing your marketing through COVID. Businesses come in all shapes and sizes. None will avoid some sort of impact from this event. As business owners and managers, you are being flooded with information. Every day there is more information being published than in a typical week, if not a typical month. And it's difficult, if not impossible, to sift through it all to uncover what information is relevant to you and what information will inform you on the difficult decisions that you must make to navigate through this pandemic. Data is changing hourly. Direction being provided by reliable and trusted sources is being updated frequently and often contradicts direction provided just earlier. What we present today is based on information that we mined this past weekend and updated as needed as recently as this morning. We have sifted through a warehouse worth of data, guidance, and directives in order to provide you with a curated set of relevant facts, strategies, and tactics that we hope will help you successfully navigate these turbulent waters. Some of the strategies are from trusted business organizations. Some are ones we have developed and implemented ourselves. Our goal here is to save you some time, present to you what we believe are some actions you can take, and provide you with resources to enable you to confidently make decisions for the benefit of your business. If we tried to give you all the information you need to manage through this, we'd be giving you the same warehouse full of information that we mined. What we would like to do today is briefly recognize what's going on, identify the current and potential impacts on business, discuss internal communication as well as external communication with your clients, identify possible adaptations to your business model that will allow you to continue with commerce in this period of limited interpersonal interaction, and provide a framework for analyzing your marketing efforts during this time and possible adaptations to that. My name is Jim Job. I am the Director of Search and Social Marketing, and I'm joined today by Joel Sesco, our National Automotive Director. Together, we will try to provide you concise information and actionable strategies for keeping your business intact through the coming weeks and months.
Thanks, Jim. As he said, my name is Joel Sesco. Anyone watching the news is bound to hear a lot of comparisons to past downward business cycles, with most of those cycles being related to or caused by an economic recession. There are certainly some similarities and insights that can be gained from those comparisons, but it's also important to recognize that the country and your customers are experiencing something that's altogether unique and different from those past events. So before we dive too deeply, let's spend just a few minutes to frame in the situation that's occurring and differentiate how a typical recession plays out compared to the more immediate and fluid situation caused by a global pandemic. The largest difference between a recession and our current pandemic-driven situation is the timeline. A recession is a fall in GDP in 2 consecutive quarters, and it can really only be identified after it has already happened. 2019 Q4 GDP was up 2.1%, and forecasts as recently as February estimated continued growth in GDP for the first quarter of 2020, based on the strength of the underlying fundamentals of the market. But all of those forecasts assumed that there wouldn't be a catastrophic global event. Enter the black swan. Black swan is a term for an improbable or unforeseen event, something that happens once in a generation and is impossible to adequately plan for, simply because there's a lack of historical comparisons. In this case, the black swan is obviously COVID-19. While a recession necessitates a change in business's long-term strategy, the current pandemic requires some immediate changes in short-term tactics to address the rapid changes in consumer behavior and the government-imposed restrictions. Whether this pandemic causes a recession won't be known for a few months yet. If so, then your long-term strategy will need to be adjusted as appropriate. But for now, consider what the immediate impact is on your business and make tactical decisions around that immediate need.
Economists are universally saying that this event is so unprecedented in scope and magnitude that there are no models or forecasting that are basically any better than a wild guess. So, as Joel has said, we will identify what impacts us today and seek to address what we can do immediately. Anyone talking about the future is just guessing at this point, and that doesn't do anyone any good. The future will soon manifest itself, and we can make longer-term strategic plans around what we see in June, July, and beyond. So now that we have the framing out of the way, let's talk about what we are seeing and what we can do about it. These industries have felt the impact of COVID for a longer period than the rest of the economy. Their struggles are well documented, and I hope they get the help needed to remain viable. Some have adapted their business models to minimize the impact, such as retail moving to an e-commerce type platform, restaurants moving to curbside pickup or delivery, and new movies being released on pay-per-view. Some dealerships are going with virtual drives. And some industries are actually thriving. America tends to come together in crisis, like post 9/11, and charitable giving is on the increase as America takes care of its less fortunate. Pharmaceuticals and health supplies are doing well. Streaming services are up over 100%. Packaging and shipping supplies are up, believe as business, changed their modality and are shipping the goods that used to get picked up. Finance and accounting services are up as businesses attempt to navigate the financial impacts of COVID. And cards, gift baskets, floral arrangements are all seeing substantial upticks in search volume and conversion. Some question marks: furniture is statistically flat. Appliances are up. Perhaps because as we finally have to cook at home, we discover that our oven doesn't work. Dealerships are struggling, but maintenance and repair searches are up 43%. Real estate is in general flux, but moving and relocation searches are up substantially. What we are seeing and what this shows is the delineation of wants and needs. Wants are things I desire to have. Needs are things I must have to survive. I need food. I want that food at a restaurant, but I can live without that. I need toilet paper. I may want to fix a leaky faucet, but I can delay that repair until it is safer to invite someone into my home. I need hot water, and I will invite someone into my home today in order to get hot water. I may still want a couch. I might even still be actively shopping for it, but where I was going to buy it this payday, now I'm going to wait. I'm still going to buy it, just not this payday. Consumers still have needs that must be met, and businesses that fill those needs will have to influence the consumer on platforms that are accessible from their homes. A billboard will not get much attention for a while. Consumers still have wants that will be met as well. The purchase may be delayed and fulfillment may look different, but businesses that fill wants will also have the opportunity to influence those consumers.
Jim and I are here to offer suggestions, but we can't define every situation that a business might find itself in. So when coming up with your plan, be extremely clear and honest about what your business has historically been. That will inform the actions that need to be made to get through this. I recommend that you actually write down your own answers, really define it, and you'll see towards the end how a business's ultimate action plan to COVID-19 will vary based on the unique business model and situation that you're in today. After defining where your business is, there are 4 different, I think, corona-related scenarios that you may be experiencing, and they're the very least worth thinking through. Regardless of where you currently fall, it will be important to think through how to respond to each of these 4 situations so that your business isn't caught flat-footed by the ever-evolving nature of the pandemic. For situation number 1, business is down, but you're still open. If your business deals more in wants than it does in needs, then you probably will still see purchases, just maybe not today or this week, as Jim mentioned. There are too many what-if variables to go into, but an understanding of your customer's buying journey should inform your thinking about possible next steps. And we'll dive into that, how to look at a buying journey further in just a second. For number 2, Some businesses are going to close temporarily due to an affected employee, but your competitors will still remain open. For anyone experiencing this, maybe you consider reallocating some marketing budget to an email to your customer list with a message that you're temporarily closed, along with the steps being taken before reopening. A strategy around when and how to reopen would be really important in a situation like that. In situation number 3, your business is closed as well as your main competitors due to a regional or localized quarantine or lockdown. Here, it very well may be appropriate to continue advertising with generally the same strategy as before, still prospecting and still going after purchase intenders. The demand is still there, and with everyone closed, there's nowhere to fulfill that demand. That will likely lead to a sizable bounce immediately upon reopening for those that stay in front of their customers. But that's the key, staying top of mind for your customers. Adjusting the messaging of your advertising and right-sizing the budget as necessary, that may be all that's required here to make sure that you're well placed to capitalize on pent-up demand upon reopening. And finally, some businesses may be up, and that is definitely a great thing for those that are. The nuance here is that even if business is down overall for you, there may be pockets of increase due to your specific products or offerings. So if that's the case, I say feed the hot hand and work to capture as much of that increase as you can where you can find it.
Joel mentioned an understanding of your customer's buying journey on the previous slide. It entails a consumer identifying something that they intend to purchase. It can be a want or a need, and then the journey and the resources they use as they identify their options, narrow their choices, and ultimately purchase. In auto, there is on average 24 touch points over 6 to 12 weeks, basically, between establishing intent to purchase and actually identifying what to purchase and from whom. For a Friday date night at a restaurant, there's a buying journey. What do you feel like and where will we get it? It may be short, but it still involves several searches on the internet. Vacations, homes, furniture, all involve longer and more complex buying journeys. But every purchase involves a decision-making process. And you need to know what your consumer's journey looks like before COVID and where your marketing addressed that journey before you can identify how COVID has changed that journey and what you need to change in order to address the difference. To begin this process, suggest that you list all of the marketing that you utilize, and then whether the function of that marketing was creating awareness, which is generally referred to as top of funnel, or was nurturing, which is pulling someone through the decision-making process, or was conversion or bottom of the funnel related. Now that you have a snapshot of the actual function of your marketing in relation to the buying journey at the point before COVID, we'll address changes to the buying journey as a result of COVID later and modifications you can make to sync the components back up.
The title of this webinar is Managing Your Marketing Through COVID-19, so I assume that you're all interested in that marketing piece. And when you really think about it, marketing could also just as easily be defined as the way that you communicate with your customers across various media channels. That's why we market, to get our value proposition out to the world so that customers choose to do business with us. How you communicate will never be more important than it is right now. And I implore all of you to keep that in mind for everyone that you deal with, whether that be coworkers, your vendor partners, and especially potential customers. How you respond and communicate over the coming days and weeks will determine the strength of your relationship with them going forward. So how should you respond? A rule of thumb, no matter who you're communicating with, keep in mind we're all experiencing a world that has been upended, at least temporarily. People have had their daily routines changed drastically in some cases, and some are truly frightened either for their health, their income, or both. Be a real person, be authentic with your communication, and focus on how you can provide the best service and what's in the best interest of everyone involved. Let's start with communicating with vendors. Your vendor partners are often overlooked when it comes to communication, and I think that they should actually be one of your very first calls. Adtaxi we're a business-to-business business ourselves because we act as a marketing vendor for our customers. I can't tell you how many times we could have been a bigger help Had we known or been consulted sooner in some decision-making process? A business typically outsources different things to a vendor because that vendor either has a skill set that that business doesn't have or specialized knowledge and resources that you can't match internally. They want to be your partner and they want to help, so be sure to consult with them. At the very least, ask what their plans are for weathering this storm. You rely on them for something, so knowing what their contingencies are will make sure that you aren't blindsided in a worst case scenario. On the flip side of that, be sure to let them know what your contingencies are so that they can plan effectively as well.
It's not just vendors and partners you need to reach out to. In the best of times, it costs 5 times more to get a new customer than to retain an existing customer. I don't even want to guess how that metric is impacted by the current situation. I do know that just as it was immediately following 9/11, your current revenue is at risk. Therefore, the priority is on contacting and serving your existing customer base in order to retain them before chasing new business. In the case of a B2B business, first, call your clients to do a checkup. Don't wait for them to call you. Be proactive. Reach out to them with an honest recognition of the situation and an assessment of any impacts you see on their business with you. You want to ask questions on how this is impacting them. See if they've had any internal discussions, contingency planning on what their response is going to be. Your clients may not fully know what impact this pandemic is having on their business. You may be able to help them understand the elephant in the room. Putting off this difficult discussion doesn't make it go away, and having it sooner is better than having it later. Listen to your client and collaborate on changes, any that need to be made. This doesn't mean you automatically do anything they say, but it does mean that you are willing to. Have a conversation that puts their best interest as the top priority. It may mean gently keeping them from making rash decisions by offering alternatives. If they're dead set on canceling some or all of their business with you, you'll want to bridge for the future. Something along the lines of, I completely understand your decision given these uncertain times. Let's pause instead of breaking up. And that way, when this resolves itself and your employees and company are ready for it, we can start right back up without you missing out on the upswing on the other side. If you do uncover an opportunity, either due to their competition pulling out or by the nature of their offering, I encourage you to call back and explore it later, even one day later. You want the first call to them to be about them and their immediate situation. You do not want it to look like a fishing expedition. You're the one making this call, so you want to be the one guiding the conversation. You want to ask open-ended, sympathetic, probing questions. These are only suggestions, and in no way are they comprehensive. They're just conversation prompts to get the conversation moving, and then you'll need to go with the flow from there.
How you market through this upheaval, it's an exercise on focusing on what you can control. And there are a number of variables that goes into determining how you should move forward. There's no way, again, that we could go into every variation, but essentially you want to focus on the different levers that can be pulled to put yourself in the best possible situation. We've already talked through items 1, 2, and 3, and hopefully you get a good handle on what your marketing strategy is as you categorize your media mix. 2 items that are easier to forget is the geographical targeting for your advertising, as well as the audience that you're going after. Maybe you're a business located in a major city and you typically market in the suburbs to capture people that commute into the city for work, but that may need to be adjusted as fewer and fewer people are physically going to work for a period of time. So with these variables in mind, your next 2 steps, bottom 2 on the list, are to think through the business adaptations that are available to your business and to adjust your creative and ad copy. Let's start with the potential business adaptations.
Some of the safety restrictions can make it difficult to continue to do business the way that we did it in the past. So be open to change and see where that takes you. Business can be defined as what we do, who we do it for, and what the mechanism for that transaction is for making that happen. Let me give you some examples of how people have fundamentally changed aspects of their business in order to survive and sometimes thrive in the current environment. Adding delivery is fairly obvious, especially for products or services that lend themselves to that. E-com, especially locally, doesn't have to be an involved process with web development and online checkout. It can be as easy and old school as putting images of your products on your site, having customers call you, and executing the transaction over the phone. You can then ship to them, or they can come do curbside pickup with you. People still need to move, but their ability to go take tours of dozens of apartments is eliminated, basically. A leasing agent, however, can use Skype, Zoom, or any other FaceTime-like app and show them apartments live and interactively. Curbside pickup is applicable to many businesses. My local brew pub has used Facebook to get the word out that they are open 3 hours a day with growlers to go. You email your order to them, they confirm via return email, and you show up and pick up and go. Your kids' classes aren't the only thing being live streamed right now. Yoga and fitness studios are conducting open streaming classes, often using Facebook Live. They're hoping for donations, but their upside is that they have the possibility of retaining those new students that take advantage of the free streaming when they go back to live studio classes down the road. Distilleries have found new uses for their waste alcohol, giving it away as hand sanitizer, and the added benefit is that people are also buying their spirits. The takeaway to this is you can change the way you conduct business in order to adapt to the current conditions. One of the things you want to do from a marketing adaptation standpoint is check your creative and your call to actions. As mentioned, schedule a tour or make an appointment might not be appropriate right now. Modify the behavior or action that you desire to one that is appropriate. Also, consider addressing new consumer decision-making criteria. It could be how you conduct the transaction that keeps everyone safe, or it may be special financing that addresses their financial uncertainty. As Joel mentioned earlier, make sure your images don't display crowds, groups, or personal interactions. I think this Tokyo Joe's ad is perfect. It's understated, it's discreet, it's tactful, it's very well done. I don't believe that they actually delivered before COVID, so this represents an adaptation to their business model that will allow them to stay open and keep their people employed. So with that framework, you'll recognize this slide from several minutes ago. It represents the consumer purchase journey and the marketing touch points that influence them along the way. We recommend that you identify your customer's buying journey and where your marketing efforts fell pre-COVID on that path to purchase. Now we are going to ask you, because you filled that out, now we're going to ask you to identify how this journey looks today, and then how you adapt your marketing to address those changes. And we'll do it by walking through a couple of examples. So we'll start simple. This is a HVAC plumbing company, and the buying journey is fairly straightforward, as it's a needs-based company. In troubled times, however, as we've harped on, what was classified as a need pre-COVID now may be reclassified as a want. So I've identified the primary platforms this business uses and classified where in the funnel or journey they fall. By and large, they capture needs-based searches via Google and Bing, and the buying journey is fairly short. Their budget is very heavy on search engine allocation. They prospect via digital display and social advertising. This time of year, they would typically be prospecting using air conditioning tune-ups kind of specials. We then need to analyze the current performance of these channels. Keep in mind that you may need to change your expectations of what you're measuring as your key performance indicators. Maybe even your definition of what actions are deemed important. For instance, typical metric for retail, the action that indicates success, might be that when someone is on your website, they go to a maps and directions page, or where Google provides it, that Google indicates they've made a store visit. Is that action a relevant, measurable metric in today's environment? I suggest you take a step back in sophistication. Might a more relevant indicator of intent in today's environment be engagement, the time they spent on your site, product views, that type of thing? That's for you to decide, but it's unrealistic to expect that people are going to convert as they had been pre-COVID. Identify your current marketing mix. What piece of the journey is being addressed by each of those? What performance is, and measure all that against how your consumer's buying journey has changed. The biggest message is this: we have to sync up our marketing efforts with how the consumer buying journey looks today. So in this case, an analysis of their search performance shows, you see the arrows, I've kind of highlighted it for you. There was a decrease in conversion rates and therefore an increase in their cost per conversion. And this happened as consumers began delineating the difference between items that needed to be repaired and items that were an annoyance and could be delayed, like a leaky faucet. A need pre-COVID becomes a want today. Additionally, there was a very real concern by consumers about allowing someone into their home, even for a service that needs to be done. This is revealed in the performance report by a steady decrease in the conversion rate from 38 in like the last week of January and the first week of February down to 27. As a result of this, those are highlighted in red, by the way. As a result of this analysis and the realization that the customer's decision-making criteria had changed, we reduced their search keywords during the second week of March to just those that were more needs and emergency-based. And we made changes to their ad copy that I'll show you in a moment. The subsequent results on their search performance has been an increase in conversion rate, as you can see in the green, and a corresponding decrease in the cost per conversion. And that's a return to the pre-COVID acquisition costs. I'll point out that eliminating the wants-based keywords, leaky faucets and other annoyances, reduced the search budget by 50%. I want you to keep that in the back of your mind for a moment from now. You can see that that manifests itself up there on the cost piece. We also analyzed this company's Facebook campaign. The silver lining of people being online more is that there's more inventory and we have more opportunities to place ads in front of people. Results in greater reach and lower costs. You can see that we are getting 20% more impressions for the same budget that these people have. We're also able to put ads in front of people who may have been in our target audience before, but they weren't online enough to be served an impression. Now they're spending more time online, and we're able to serve them ads. It's fresh faces. Besides using Facebook to stay connected, people are staying at home, and that's resulted in that 102% increase in streaming media, basically. So we reallocated that budget that we saved over on the search side into connected TV. And we changed our offer on both Facebook and connected TV from the air conditioning tune-up kind of pre-season thing to one with an air purifier. So this is what it looked like after we reanalyzed the buying journey and we made those decisions. On Facebook, in connected TV, and in our search text ad, we've addressed the health concern of their customers around allowing someone into their home. So our messaging is now around, we won't shake hands, we'll keep our distance, we'll get in and out. We also had them reach out via an email blast to all their past customers with the same message. If you need to have us in there, we won't shake hands, we'll be safe, we'll get in and out, and we'll take care of your needs. The changes to the media mix and their messaging has minimized the financial impact of this event. Make no mistake, this company won't have a record month, but they will be able to keep their workers employed, and they will be in a good position to resume normal operations at the conclusion of this crisis.
Here's one more example. This one is an auto dealership, and let's break down their situation the same way that we illustrated earlier. It's a Ford store with the typical departments of sales, service, and parts. They're a B2C business relying on in-person sales with very limited online sales capabilities. Most of their business would qualify as a want rather than a need, but there are exceptions, especially with some of the services. Think safety recalls and items like that. The dealership is located inside of a major metro, and they're still completely open for business, even though they are seeing a general decline across the board as a result of the recommended social distancing. Repeat business is essential for them. About half of their sales customers are return customers, and an even higher percentage in the sales and service departments are return customers. And the standard purchase journey for a vehicle purchase lasts between 2 to 3 months, depending, and involves a significant amount of research. And finally, you can see the marketing mix for their top 3 platforms, not all of their marketing, but their top 3 investments. And it is a pretty even mix across prospecting and retargeting and hitting the entire sales journey. So let's see what adjustments were made. How has their marketing approach changed? First, they shifted all of their messaging to focus on what can be done without visiting the dealership, offering to pick up and deliver vehicles to customers' homes, virtual test drives, online credit applications, items like that. You can see an example of that on the right-hand side. That's an example of a Facebook ad. They sent out an email blast to their existing customer database to let everyone know exactly what steps they were taking to keep both their employees and their customers safe from infection. Because absolutely every sale counts right now, they shifted their paid search focus to the bottom of the sales funnel to maximize their impression share for searches that demonstrate really clear purchase intent. For the same reason, they increased their budget allocation with their retargeting campaigns to make sure that no one that is shopping for vehicles on their website slips away. They decided that their search engine optimization strategy should stay strong because SEO is a long-term strategy that isn't affected by short-term market swings. They actually increased that investment slightly. And they haven't made this move yet, but they're looking into shifting their radio budget over to streaming video. There isn't as much time being spent listening to the radio at the moment because many commuters are working from home. But there has been a huge increase in digital video impressions that are available, so that's a really smart move on their part. And finally, just to make sure they're capturing every sale that is available to them, they're putting a heavy focus on customers that are coming due on their vehicle leases within the next 90 days. For those customers, making a purchase decision is a need because of their upcoming lease expiration. These are all smart moves, and it's not completely holistic on everything that they're doing, but it's clearly driven based on their own unique situation. Your approach will certainly be different, but what's important is to play to your strengths and make tactical shifts in strategy to weather the storm.
This should be really familiar by this time. It's the 3rd time we've seen it. It's the consumer buying journey. Now with changes indicated as a result of COVID, it's longer. One of the ways that we nurture or we pull consumers through the buying journey is by remarketing. Joel just mentioned it. It's naive to assume that a customer clicks on a search ad, sees exactly what he wants on your website, and converts by buying from you all in 5 minutes. Even if they intend to buy from you, they're going to explore their options. So we're just thankful when they visit your site, even when they don't convert immediately, because they have at least revealed themselves digitally as being interested in what you sell and in buying in front of you. To solidify that sale, we remarket to those people after they've gone to your site, but before they convert. We inundate them with ads, keeping you top of mind, and we're basically digitally taking them by the hand and pulling them to your business. So consider that your consumer's buying journey may now be 8 weeks instead of 4. Or 12 instead of 8. You're going to need to allocate additional budget for your extended remarketing efforts.
And finally, we know that for many companies, a temporary pause or reduction in marketing spend may be a tough but necessary choice. And the common question has been around how to move the marketing ball forward, even if your overall budget has to take a short-term hit. Where should the focus be? Well, Here's a few ideas. Search engine optimization is one area. I've already mentioned it. SEO isn't something that can really be turned on or off. Its very nature means that you're moving forward or you're falling backward. You're never really sitting still. It takes time to increase organic rankings on the various search engines, and that time is measured in months and years. Because of that, keep pressing ahead with your SEO strategy. And if you don't have a strategy, now's a great time to start, as SEO is pretty low cost compared to most other marketing tactics. Really, now's a great time to focus on your website in general. Really do a deep dive on your site and try to see it through the eyes of a potential customer. I know that's hard to do, but very, very important. Focus on providing as seamless of an experience as possible. When's the last time that you updated your About Us page? Do you even have an About Us page? What about some content around your involvement in the local community? Maybe a selfie video of the owner telling customers just how much they're appreciated, especially now. That would go a long way. Be creative. The opportunities are only limited by your imagination. For any business that maintains some sort of customer list, I recommend taking a serious look into data hygiene. Is your customer list accurate and is it complete? Meaning name, address, phone number, email address. There are companies that can append your customer list with whatever data fields may be missing, and that can be invaluable from a marketing perspective. Your customer list is your business's first-party data, and companies like Adtaxi are able to target your marketing based on that data. So making sure that it is as clean and complete as possible will put you in a great spot to come back strong when we're on the other side of this. Finally, make sure that your online reputation is in a good spot. Respond to those questions and comments and reviews, and reach out to past customers to make sure they feel good about their experience with your company. Any improvement in reviews will only pay dividends in the long run. Just keep in mind, you aren't on an island. You're not in this on your own. You have resources. Keep an eye on materials coming out from your local Chamber of Commerce or the Better Business Bureau. Seek out experts in your industry or category and see what they have to say. You're doing, I think, a great job by being on this webinar. This would be just one example. LinkedIn is invaluable for this sort of thing as well. I recommended this earlier, but check in with your vendors and partners. They work with a lot of other companies, and they can have ideas that they see working elsewhere or that someone else is implementing that you just wouldn't think of on your own. And finally, check out the resources that Adtaxi has available on our website. We're releasing content all the time, just being a great example. And so if any of this webinar has been helpful to you, you're likely to find other items that we have produced helpful as well. So just to wrap things up, here's a few things to remember. First and foremost, please take care of yourself, your family, your loved ones. That has to be the most important thing. And don't panic. Pause, take stock of your unique situation, take inventory of your current marketing, and then be proactive. Be sure to communicate more than you typically might with your coworkers or employees, with your vendor partners, and definitely with your customers. And finally, keep an eye out for opportunities to enhance your position. You may need to be creative, but opportunities are there to either capitalize on now or to set yourself up to capture more than your fair share when this pent-up demand gets unleashed, because that will happen. So hang in there.
So on behalf of Joel, Adtaxi, and myself, we would like to thank you for taking the time to attend this webinar. We hope that you now have a framework for making informed marketing decisions by platform and by message and in synchronization with your new consumer buying journey that will help you navigate this unprecedented time. If you are a client of Adtaxi, please reach out to your rep for questions, evaluation, or further insight. If you aren't a client but have questions, need an evaluation or insight, please go to adtaxi.com or you can email info@adtaxi.com. Please be safe and be well. And thank you for your time.